Alright, so in this video, we're gonna create this monster smoke scene. So first we need to go to Mixamo and download some of the characters. If you don't care about this, you only care about the simulation portion, feel free to skip ahead because this will be more of a general Unreal Engine tutorial after all, because I have to show you how to import the characters and run the sequencer and all that. So let's download the mutant character from Mixamo. So you can just select the mutant character and then click on animations and just search for idle here, mutant idle. That's where he's opening his arms. And to make him look much larger, we can just slow down his movement. So I'll just drag this overdrive lower and this will slow down the animation. Let's go all the way to 0. So it's really nice and slow, and that's gonna make him look huge. So you can just download, set it to 24 frames per second and download that. And next we need the night character. So again, characters. Okay, it's on the last page and it's actually called Paladin with prop. So use this character and let's give him just that standing animation. So again, animations, idle. And on page 2, it's this standing idle animation that I used for him. Again, we can slow him down just a little bit so that he's sort of breathing slower, and then download, and I'll meet you in Unreal Engine. Okay, so this is where we left off before. I'm gonna make a new level. So file, new level. Let's make it the basic, create, save this one if it asks. And then again, save current level as, and let's call it level underscore o2 underscore monster. And then we can go to our meshes folder and just create a new folder. Just call it monster underscore idle, and then make another new folder and just call it night underscore idle. So open the monster idle folder and just go to wherever you downloaded the monster to, and just, so for me it's the mutant idle.fbx, and drag it directly into here. Make sure you check import animations and then just import all. So this will import the skeleton, the animation, the textures, everything you need. And you can drag the mutant idle animation sequence, it's this one, and just drag it into your scene. And you can check that the animation has loaded down here. So it says animation to play, it says mutant idle animation, and you can just drag the initial position to check that the animation file is there, and it is. So he's not gonna be moving by default, but we're gonna fix that with the sequencer in a bit. For now, I wanna import the night as well. So night idle, meshes, and import my night idle FBX, import animations, import all. You can ignore the smoothing group warning, that's fine, and just drag the night idle animation sequence into the scene. Rotate him 180 degrees to face the monster. Now it's up to you how big you want the monster to be, so I'll just hit R to scale and scale this guy up. Make him, pretty huge, but not too huge. Just to sort of roughly get what I had before over here. So, move this guy back, maybe make the monster just a touch bigger. If I put my camera in place, I think that looks about correct. Maybe move this guy back a little bit more. Okay, so to get these guys to move and keep moving, we're gonna use the sequencer. So up here you can click on add level sequence. Let's go to our redefine effects folder, fluids course, sequences, and let's name it our SQ underscore, that's for sequence monster. And let's just dock it right next to our content browser. So now I'll just select the monster and drag it from the outliner directly into my sequencer. And I just need to tell it to load the animation. So I just click on this animation, click the plus icon and select the mutant idle animation. And so now if I play this, you can see that he's gonna start moving. Now I can just extend the timeline. So maybe set this to 500 frames. Extend, right? So we can move this red line to the end of the mutant animation. And so this is one full loop for the monster. So the monster is gonna keep looping, doing this with his arms. And now we can just do the same thing for the knight. So select the knight, drag him into the sequencer, animation, select the night idle, and I'll make sure that it starts on frame 0, and we can just extend this to cover the entire animation of the monster, right? So you can see these little lines on the track, and these lines are the end of one loop. So this would be one loop for the night animation. This would be 2 loops, 3 loops, right? So they're not aligned, so they're not gonna loop together, but we really care about the monster the most. So now when I hit play, we have the night moving a little bit, breathing, and the monster spreading his arms. So we are ready to go into our Niagara setup. So let's just save all, and then we can go into our fluids course, VFX, make a new Niagara system, create an empty system. Let's call it ns underscore monster underscore smoke. Double click that, and we will create a new emitter. Let's go to parent emitters, make it a grid 3D gas master emitter, double click. We can collapse all these settings like we did before. Now I know I'm gonna need this to be a much wider box. So emitter summary, let's make the world size maybe 1000 on X, and let's do maybe 1200 on Z. It needs to be pretty tall. I need the sphere to be close to the ceiling. So let me just set this to 0. Okay, let's do minus 0.2. Let's do minus 0.4. That's too much, so minus 0.3. Yep, that's good, and I need the smoke to be falling down. So density buoyancy, I'll do 1. That should give us some pretty heavy smoke falling down. I'll give it a bit more resolution, so 300 for the resolution, and drag our Niagara system monster smoke into the scene, put it above the monster, maybe way above him so we don't really see the sphere in our shot. And I think I moved it sort of behind the neck of the monster, so it just goes over his shoulders in a way. I think something like that. And by the way, it's already colliding with the monster for me automatically. If there's no collisions for you, you might have to add a tag to the object. Very easy to do, just search for tag. And under the actor here, click on the plus sign and just type in collider, enter. So we just added a tag to the mutant model, and this is letting Niagara know that you want this particular piece of geometry to collide with the simulation. I would like the smoke to last longer and sort of touch the floor before it dissipates. So under simulation, dissipation rate for the density, we can just set that to maybe 0.1 so that it really lasts a long time. Now, if you want to improve the collisions with geometry, that's what this pressure solve iterations are for. So whenever you have a smoke that's moving pretty fast and it's colliding with something, the faster it's moving, the harder it's going to be for the solver to catch all the collisions and make them look good. So we can increase the solve iterations here to maybe 12, and this should give us some nicer collisions, and already it's looking much better than before. So maybe let's try 15. I don't really want the smoke to be killed on the x-axis, right? So extend that, or maybe that's the y-axis. So let's set this to maybe 700. I'll go to maybe 900. See if we have enough room in front of him. Also, let's make sure that the smoke is colliding with the floor. So collisions and open boundary -z, uncheck that, and make sure that the bottom of the grid is sitting nicely on the floor, just like that. Nice. We're gonna have to tweak the density of the smoke when we add all the lights, but I think it might be a bit too thick, just too dense. So we can go to the source and change the density overall from 5 to maybe 4, just to make the smoke a bit more see-through, just not as dense as it is right now. Can hardly tell the difference, but again, we'll see what it looks like with all the lights. I think we can increase the resolution even more. It's getting a little rough down here when it's dissipating. So let's set the resolution of the simulation to 400. And let's see what it looks like when it's colliding with the moving monster. So sequencer. And we need to add the Niagara system into the sequencer. So just drag the NS monster smoke directly over here. And we need to tell it to use the lifetime component. What that means is you can just click on the plus sign over here and say Niagara component, and then click on this plus sign and select the Niagara system life cycle track. And this will give you the entire simulation lifetime as another layer in your sequencer. So you can just extend this out. And the cool thing is that now when I hit play, it's gonna start and everything is moving and the monster is colliding with the smoke beautifully, just like we wanted to. So I think we can extend the timeline to get at least 2 loops out of that monster. So I'll just set it to 1000 frames total, expand the timeline, and just expand everything out. So the monster, the night, and the Niagara system. And my second loop for the monster ends right here. So maybe we can set that as our endpoint. Again, run the simulation. So you can see it will run to the end, and it's not looping because we don't have looping enabled. So down here, you can just click on the arrow and change it to loop playback range. And now when I hit play, it will reset back to 0. Monsters moving. And really, it's the second loop that we care about when he's already covered with smoke. Right here is our shot. Boom. That's exactly what I did for the trailer. So I think we can give him more room on the left and right. And this will be the x-axis. So let's set this to maybe 1250 on the x-axis world size. So just check everything, make sure that you're happy with how big your simulation grid is, that nothing's getting cut off too obviously. And at this point, we can just hide the bounds of the grid. So here, emitter summary, uncheck, draw bounds. And now it's entirely up to you for what you want to do for the lighting. I basically just added a few spotlights to highlight the smoke as much as I could and make it stand out against the background. So what I like to do is just get rid of the directional light altogether. And then we can just go under Create, Lights, Spotlight. We can just move this spotlight to illuminate our night. Maybe move it a bit higher. And then I like to change the angle of the light. Maybe just illuminate our character over here and lower the intensity. And then you can hold Alt and drag to make another spotlight. And this time maybe change the color to that sort of emergency light red. And you know, this is the part where you just gotta have fun a little bit and just see what looks good, you know, and what kind of style you're personally into. So I really kind of like rim lighting, like back lighting. So I'm gonna move it behind the monster and just sort of illuminate the smoke from the back. And then you can hold Alt again, make another copy of this light, and then hold Alt again, and this one can maybe be more bluish, just to create that warm, cold, cinematic look. So make it slightly blue, and you know, just see what looks good, where it's hitting the smoke in a cool way. Maybe move it higher. Move it behind the monster. And yeah, one important thing that I almost forgot to mention is we need to turn on the volumetric shadows. You can see how the smoke is looking really flat. That's because there are no volumetric shadows. So just select the light, and here in the settings search bar, just search for cast and make sure you check cast volumetric shadows, and it immediately gets fixed and looks much better. So let's do that for all of the spotlights. Again, cast, volumetric shadows, spotlight 2, enable that, spotlight 1, enable that. So we're getting something really nice right now. Select this light, again, hold Alt, make another copy, maybe select the blue light again and make another copy. And this one can be sort of a much wider area and illuminate the front of the monster. So I'll just rotate it. We can expand the cone angle, but make it less intense. Maybe something like that. Move it to this side and then hold Alt again. Rotate it. Move it back and forward. Maybe down a little bit. And this one can be stronger. So maybe 10 intensity. And yeah, then you can just sort of put your camera in place and see how things are looking at this point. So I wouldn't mind maybe some red lights illuminating the hands of the monster. So I'll just select my initial spotlight, maybe this one, and hold Alt again and copy that. Move it back above his hands. And basically just gonna spend a few minutes, you know, not gonna overdo it or anything, but just to make this scene look as cool as we can. So illuminate the details of the monster, maybe put this one over here. Maybe the spotlight above the knight is a bit too strong, so I'll just lower the intensity of this to like 4, or maybe just 2. And finally, you know, this is entirely up to you again, but I just added a few pillars, just some basic boxes, just to add some more interest to the environment and some depth to the shot and some sense of scale. So basically you can go under Window, Quixel Bridge, and here you can find all sorts of assets, textures, models. And I just downloaded these black tiles, so you can just search for black tiles, you know, select the asset, click download, and then click add. Actually, I think it was these black ceramic tiles, so that's actually what I use. So just download it and then click add. And it will go over to your content browser, and here you have the material. So you can just drag the material on top of the floor. And you may have to change the tiling. So you can just double click on that. Enable the tiling offset. Open this arrow up, and you can set the tiling to maybe 2 by 2. And now you have some, you know, smaller tiles on the floor. And to add the pillars, we can just go to shapes, basic shapes, cube, and you can just hit R to scale. And I think I literally just made, you know, a few boxes like this. Add the ceramic tile material to it. And then I just moved it behind the monster like this. And I just, you know, made a few of them. So I'm not gonna make you watch that. I think you get the idea, right? Feel free to make this environment look as cool as you would like. I mainly just wanted to show you the smoke simulation. So I feel like already going above and beyond over here to make it look nice. But I feel like the way you present the simulations is really important, right? This is just a very basic smoke simulation, but the way you present it can make all the difference. So I can just go back into my sequencer, run the simulation, and here's my cool shot of the monster moving the smoke around. And that's it. That's basically the trailer shot right here. Almost the same result. So I hope that you guys are learning a lot, not just Niagara, but also Unreal Engine as a whole. We covered some sequencer action. We went over a lot of the smoke settings again. And in the next video, we're gonna move forward with our effects setup number 2.